G'day guys, welcome to 2013. For the first video of the year, I thought I'd take a look at this IBM PC 5150, the precursor to everything that we call a PC today. Intel processor, Microsoft software, just a piece of brilliant machinery. So the first thing you probably noticed is that I have one 360K drive, a 3.5 inch drive and a hard disk in there. You're saying this is an XT or an AT. Well, it's a 5150, be assured. I've just put in some upgrades to make it a bit more usable. As you can see from the badge on the back here, it is definitely a 5150. Okay, a little bit of background on this system. I bought this for $100, and what I got was the PC 5150. I got 2 floppy drives, the hard disk, a bunch of peripheral cards, and an amber monochrome monitor, and the IBM keyboard to go with the system, so not a bad package. When I first got it, there was an XT motherboard installed. That is an XT board, you can tell by having 8 ISA slots and 1 set of dip switches. In fact, I'm not even sure that this is an IBM board. Don't know if there were any with that printed on them. So the PC motherboard came as a spare, so I swapped it in, cranked it up, and I was getting memory errors. So just through trial and error, I managed to find the faulty memory chip and replace it. It's the odd one out there. Got it out of a Commodore or something, I think. Anyhow, now we'll have a look at some of the peripheral cards. Okay. The first card is the original IBM monochrome and parallel card. Lots of discrete chips. This is before FPGAs and ASICs were sort of viable and economic to make. Parallel port, 9-pin TTL port. Gives us 80 column text, but only in one color, which is whatever the color of your monitor is. You get underlined and bright and blinking, a couple of variations like that, but no color and no graphics either, unless you count the ASCII code page 437 box art as graphics. Okay, next item is this IBM diskette controller. Now this is the very early model of IBM's diskette controller. There were 2 in the time of the IBM PC. This is the earlier one because it has the sort of, I guess you would call them the traditional IBM CAN style IC on there. Later revisions don't have that. But other than that, they perform the same. They look very similar. There's an edge connector here instead of a pin header that you would find on a modern floppy controller board. I use the term modern loosely. No parallel ports, no serial ports, that's all separate. This board just does floppies. It's worth mentioning that IBM's BIOS only supported 360K 5.25 inch double density floppy drives. However, as a fluke, maybe, or maybe it was deliberate, 5.25 inch double density discs and 3.5 inch double density discs have the same number of sectors per track. So reading them back over the MFM interface is more or less identical. What does this mean? Well, you can connect a 3.5 inch drive to an IBM PC 5150 and use 720K discs in it without any changes to the software or hardware. Getting the 3.5 inch drive connected is a separate challenge. There are a couple of ways to go about it. The first way is to install a 386, 486 sort of era floppy cable into the system backwards. That is with the end with the twist. You plug that into the edge connector here, and then the end that would have normally gone into the controller, you plug that on into a 3.5 inch drive and it'll just work, provided the motherboard is configured for 1 floppy drive. Obviously the spacing of the connectors would mean you couldn't have a second floppy drive because the connectors would be way too close to the controller board. So another approach is to use a modern I/O card. Just a generic WinBond multi-I/O card. I've configured the jumpers here so that the serial, parallel and hard drive controllers are all disabled. Just the floppy portion is turned on. And we can do this because the floppy portion of multi-I/O cards only ever uses the 8-bit portion of the card there. So we can put that into the system, have the 16-bit section hanging out, and it'll work as intended, and it gives us a pin header for a normal floppy cable. Bonus. I've got this Adaptec RLL hard drive controller card. Now, I don't know a whole lot about it, to be honest. There's no jumpers on there and it all seems to work, so I'm not too concerned. Not much more to say, really. Finally, there's this weird sort of Frankenstein card. There's a serial port, a parallel port, and a joystick port. If we have a look at the card itself, there's a spot for a battery. That's because, as well as a multi-I/O, this card is actually a real-time clock card as well. Obviously the battery has leaked and caused a bit of damage there. Hopefully that can be repaired just with a bit of vinegar and some elbow grease. I'll put a coin cell battery on there and restore real-time clock functionality to this IBM PC. Computers of this era generally didn't have a real-time clock on the motherboard, so you bought an add-in card like this so you didn't have to set the time every time you turn the computer on. Before I go ahead and install any interface cards, I'll quickly go over what's installed up the front here. This is a 360K 5¼ inch floppy drive. It's a Tandem TM100. When I first bought the system and powered it on, the floppy drive that was here smoked up. I tried to replace the capacitor that had popped and still didn't go anywhere, so a nice gentleman on the vintage computing forums by the name of Modem7 sent me this replacement in exchange for the non-working drive, so huge thanks to him. This is my 3.5 inch high density floppy drive, which will obviously only work at 720K because the system only knows how to talk double density. And underneath here is a 32 meg RLL hard disk. It's a Seagate ST238. Let's put it all together. We'll throw on the top and see if it'll boot. Alright, in advance I downloaded an image of IBM PC DOS 3.3 and wrote it onto this 720K floppy. Come on, focus. Huzzah! It boots. Okay. Let's partition the hard disk. Okay, so we'll delete that partition. Create primary, yes. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Now, if I recall correctly, installing DOS 3.3, there's a funny command for it. I've got it written down here somewhere. Select C. Oop. 001 S. That's right. Yes. Okay, it's going to do a format, no problem. I was hoping it would do that because I totally forgot that step. And away it goes. Now, as we saw in F-Disk, there are 600 cylinders. Not going to sit around and wait for that, so we'll do some studio magic and edit it out. Alright, nearly done. Okay, system transferred. Volume label, let's make it and now I believe it, yep, it's going to copy the DOS files to the C drive. Awesome. 32 megs. 80 kilobytes used by the system and 14 kilobytes in bad sectors. Back then it was normal to have a number of bad sectors on a hard disk, so that was just something you lived with. Nowadays a single bad sector is a warranty return. The times have changed, and I'm pretty sure that's it. So take the disk out, 3-finger salute. Booting from the hard drive. Yes! And there we go, DOS 3.3 is installed on a 32 meg hard drive in an IBM PC 5150. Let's play some games. So I've only got 2 games that'll actually work on this system. The first one is called Pac Girl, and it's a text-based version of Pac-Man. Should be interesting. Okay. Haha. Okay, there is one other game that should work on this system. Zork 1. You are standing in an open field west of a white house with a boarded front door. And there you go. Adventure time. I'm not going to sit here and play Zork because we'll just be here for hours. And that's the IBM PC 5150. So hope you've enjoyed this little video, and I'll see you all next time.